Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Leap of the Week. It's me, Sarah. And I wanted to talk today about something that I've seen debated in the yoga world, particularly. And I think sometimes we get stuck on the idea that we have to replace an old idea with a new idea instead of allowing both ideas to coexist. It's a little more challenging to hang on to two ideas at the same time, but I want to show you what I'm talking about with this. Um, the conversation has come up over the past year or so about when you're doing a standing rotation, or really any rotation pose, but when you're doing a standing rotation pose, like for example, if you're doing your standing straddle forward bend and then you're rotating, if I was going to turn, should you allow your hips to move or should you not? And the more traditional version of the yoga pose says that you keep your pelvis stable and you rotate your spine above the pelvis. And then a little while ago, some other people sort of put forward the idea of like, well, no, I should let my pelvis move. It's a more natural movement. It's more typical of how I would move during the day, and I should just let my spine go with. And so what I want to talk about today is the answer to which one of those is correct is yes, they both are, but for different reasons. So if we look at the more traditional version first, if I come into this shape, and it's not just this shape, it could be your rotated Utkatasana, it could be any time you're doing anything standing with a rotation. What I'm trying to do, what I'm trying to learn with my body here is how to keep my pelvis still and then how to move my spine separately from my pelvis. So I might choose to use this version on someone that I'm really trying to help them understand how to separate out movements of the body. And no, it's not how, if I was trying to reach for something from this position, I wouldn't be like, well, let me hold this still and rotate, but that doesn't mean it's not a useful movement to learn. And so from here, I'm going to keep my pelvis still, and I'm working. I don't have a ton of just spinal rotation personally, so for me it's kind of useful. And the other thing you get to look at if you're just isolating the spinal movement is, am I also throwing a whole big side bend and extension in there now that I'm trying to fling my arm up? Or can I keep my abdominal muscles on? And can I really just isolate the movement of rotation? And it's a real activity of proprioception here. And it can be very challenging and lots of ways to cheat out of it, as you saw. I did a couple of them. So that would be one way to do it. And you would have those reasons for doing that. And then the other way that you might choose to do this position is if I come here and instead of leaving my pelvis level, I let my hips shift. So I let my weight shift over to the right. My right hip goes up, my left hip goes down. When I do that, then it buys me all this other room to go with my spine, right? Because my spine and my pelvis are essentially going together now. If I do this, what I'm doing instead is I'm kind of stretching my inner thigh on this side, and hopefully these muscles are on and they are, I'm not just hanging out on the ligaments, but I want to be stabilizing through my hips as I'm doing it. This might have more of a kind of natural movement flow to it. It might feel more like the way you would move in real life. And there is kind of more of that focus of functional movement now. And so that might be a reason why you chose that. But it doesn't teach me anything about how much my spine will move on its own. So there's pros and cons to both. There's reasons to do either. One thing I wanted to point out is that if you are doing that first version where you're leaving your pelvis level and you're just isolating your spine, be aware, please, that your lumbar spine only permits about 5 degrees of rotation. So any rotation that I'm trying to create here should be coming mostly from my thoracic spine, from the area of my rib cage. It should not be me or someone else coming along and trying to crank my lower back into more rotation separate from my pelvis, because that's going to give you all kinds of problems. So I hope that was useful and interesting. Please, any questions or comments, thoughts about this below. Which one do you teach? Do you mix it up? I think, honestly, variety is the spice of life, for life and for your body. So if you've always taught it one way, try teaching it the other way, see how it goes. And as always, thank you for watching, and bye.